You know that moment when a deal feels like it's in the bag and then the prospect disappears faster than your motivation on a Monday morning? No thanks, but no thanks, no explanation, just radio silence. It's like they fell into a black hole. You try to convince yourself they're just busy. But deep down, you've been ghosted and it stings every time. You start spiraling. Was the price too high? Was your pitch too aggressive, too soft? Did they go with some fly-by-night competitor with better design and worse features? Or maybe, worst of all, they just didn't care as much as they pretended to. Here's the thing, nobody tells you when you're building and selling software. Most people don't buy based on logic. They buy because of feelings, gut reactions, vibes. That's the real battlefield, not your feature list or your beautiful UI. If you keep obsessing over what you're selling and not why someone might want to buy it or run from it, you're going to keep getting ghosted and you'll never even know why. So yeah, today's not about feature comparisons or closing scripts. This is about what's really going on inside your buyer's brain. The stuff they don't say out loud, the panic, the excitement, the doubts. We're going under the hood, exposing the real reasons deals close and the silent killers that make them vanish. By the end of this, you'll stop being just a founder flinging cold emails into the void. You'll start becoming someone who actually understands what flips the mental switch from maybe to hell yes. And that kind of superpower? That's what separates the ghosted from the greats. Let's just admit it. Being ghosted sucks, not just on dating apps, but in SaaS sales too. You think things are clicking, everything's on track, then boom, radio silence. No email replies, no, hey, we went another direction. Just pure vanishing act. It's easy to brush it off as rudeness or bad luck, but honestly, that silence is screaming at you. Something broke. And if you don't learn to listen to what that silence is actually saying, you're going to keep bleeding time, energy, and deals. That sure thing prospect who went MIA, that's not just a line of revenue you kissed goodbye. That's hours poured into demo calls, follow-up emails, proposal drafts, back and forth with your team. All of that vaporized. But what really stings is the mental hit. It messes with your confidence. You start tweaking your pricing, second-guessing your product, rewriting your entire sales pitch like it's the problem. You spiral. And while you're stuck chasing the ghost, there's a real buyer out there, someone who actually needed your product, just sitting in someone else's pipeline, getting the attention you could have given. That's the part no one budgets for, the opportunity cost of wasting your best energy on someone who is never going to say yes. Your pipeline fills with half-warm, non-committal leads that make you feel busy but not successful. Then you look at your forecast and it's just a bunch of wishful thinking in a spreadsheet suit. Here's where most SaaS founders trip. They assume selling software is a logic game. Like if you check more boxes than the competition, you win. But buyers aren't robots. They're human with stress and bosses and egos. They've got goals they want to hit and screw-ups they want to avoid. That person on your demo, they're not just thinking about features, they're thinking about how this decision could mess up their quarter or make them look brilliant. It's not just a purchase, it's a bet. So when someone ghosts you, odds are it wasn't about your product. It was about the fact that they didn't feel anything. They didn't feel confident. They didn't feel seen. They didn't feel like choosing you was going to make them look like a genius. You gave them logic. They needed something emotional, something that says, hey, you're making the right call and you're not going to get burned. Without that, your beautifully structured proposal becomes just another doc gathering dust in their inbox, right between last quarter's budget spreadsheet and an unread Gartner report. That silence you're hearing, it's not just nothing, it's feedback. Loud, invisible, expensive feedback. It's a signal that the emotional connection didn't happen. And fixing that starts with one thing: trust, real trust. Not in your feature list, but in you and in the feeling you give them when they imagine choosing your product. Trust isn't just a nice to have in SaaS sales. It's the whole game. A slick product, cutting edge features, a polished demo. None of it matters if the buyer doesn't feel secure. Because in this industry, software is sold on promises. And if those promises sound even a little shaky, buyers vanish. Imagine it from their side of the screen. They've been burned before. Software that broke during onboarding. Support that ghosted faster than a Tinder date. Hidden fees, locked-in contracts, embarrassing failures they had to explain to their boss. So now every new product looks like a potential landmine. When a new vendor pops up promising seamless integrations and game-changing insights, the shields go up. Ghosting in that context is just self-preservation. That's the silent killer in SaaS sales, unspoken risk. And it's everywhere. But trust? Trust is the antidote, not the performative kind, not a pixel-perfect website or a vague, we care about our customers banner. Real trust, the kind that's earned in layers like armor through small moments that tell the buyer, you're not alone, we've done this before, you're safe here. Take Sarah, a mid-level marketing manager just trying to find the right analytics platform. She lands on a site called SaaSina Analytics. What does she need to feel safe enough to stick around? First, familiarity. Right there on the homepage, logos she recognizes, competitors she secretly benchmarks against, companies in her sector. That quiet voice in her head goes, if it worked for them. Next, credibility. A quote not from a faceless, happy user, but from a named person with a real title at a real company. Something specific, like SaaSina Analytics helped us find a 15% drop-off in our checkout funnel. We fixed it in a week. Now she's listening. Then, transparency. The pricing page doesn't play games. 3 clear plans, plain language, no asterisks, an FAQ that reads like it was written by someone who actually gets what buyers worry about, not just features, fears. Finally, the demo. And here's where it clicks. No monologue, no sales script. Just a real person asking her, what's keeping your team from making decisions faster? And then listening. Not rushing, not pushing, just trying to understand her world. When they mention GDPR compliance and SOC 2 certification, they're not flexing. They're diffusing anxiety before it gets a name. By the time Sarah finishes that call, she doesn't just trust the product, she trusts the people behind it. That changes everything. Because trust doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't need to be flashy, it just removes the fear. And when fear is gone, so is ghosting. That's the shift. SaaS isn't about software, it's about risk and relief. When a prospect feels like they found someone who actually sees them, who gets what's on the line, that's when they stop disappearing. That's when they start saying yes. And yet, how many of those yeses have you personally buried in the graveyard called later? So I know everyone's done this. Bookmarked a shiny new tool, saved a link to some promising software, then poof, it vanishes into the black hole labeled later. Weeks pass, maybe months, and that later folder, let's just say it's not getting any lighter. That's not just a personal quirk. It's how most buyers operate. Even if they're sold on your product and actually trust your brand, inertia has a tight grip. Their to-do list is already overflowing, and unless there's a clear reason to act right now, your brilliant solution becomes background noise. That's how interest turns into silence. That's how ghosting happens. But urgency, real urgency, is a game changer. Not the manipulative countdown timers, the only 3 left, or the limited time only kind of urgency. That stuff just makes people roll their eyes. We're talking about ethical urgency, the kind that helps a prospect realize that not acting is actually costing them more than acting. It's not about pressure, it's about clarity. Let's get back to Sarah, still weighing whether to sign up for SaaSina Analytics. She's interested, she trusts them, but she's busy, and that cart abandonment issue in her funnel, it's frustrating, but it's not screaming at her every day. That's where the right kind of nudge matters. The rep doesn't start selling features again. Instead, he says, you mentioned people are dropping out of your checkout process, but you don't have clear data on where. For most teams we work with, that kind of friction leaks 5 to 10% of monthly revenue. For you, that's potentially $20,000 a month. Our tool can show you the exact pain point within a week. So the longer this sits, the more that leak continues. And just like that, the problem becomes present. It's not some theoretical annoyance, it's a 5-figure bleed, and she's standing there holding the bandage. That's how urgency works. It flips the question from, should we spend money on this tool, to how much is this delay already costing us? This approach works beyond conversations too. Highlighting savings for annual plans isn't just a pricing tactic, it's a decision accelerator. 2 months free for committing now feels like an opportunity. Marking one tier as most popular leverages subtle urgency and social proof. Don't overthink it. Smart people already pick this. Even external events can create natural urgency. A new regulation on the horizon? Tie your product's value to compliance deadlines? Big industry conference coming up? Now's the time to impress stakeholders with shiny dashboards or new data insights. You're not inventing pressure. You're aligning your product with what's already on their radar. And that gentle nudge, that's often what turns a maybe into a yes. Now, here's the thing. By this point, we've already hit on 2 of the biggest levers in the SaaS sales process: trust and urgency. And here's the wild part. Most teams don't even think about them consciously, which is why they struggle to convert. If this is already clicking, that means you're ahead of 90% of your competition. All right, let's move to the silent killer of conversions: complexity. Your prospects aren't just busy, they're maxed out. Emails piling up, back-to-back meetings, notifications pinging nonstop. Their mental bandwidth is stretched thinner than dental floss. The very last thing they want is to waste that energy decoding a wall of jargon on a product page or figuring out a pricing model that feels like a math exam. When that happens, the brain takes the path of least resistance. It does nothing. That's analysis paralysis. It's the same feeling as scrolling Netflix for 20 minutes and then deciding to just go to bed. Here's the trap. You've built a powerful, feature-rich platform and you're proud of it. So you showcase everything, every feature, every option, every possible add-on. You think it's proving value, but to a busy buyer, it feels like work. Not because the product's bad, but because understanding it feels like homework. That's where the simplicity principle comes in. The brain craves clarity and avoids effort. The easier the choice, the more likely people are to make it, which means your job is to strip away friction until the path forward feels obvious. Shopify is a masterclass in this. The product is incredibly complex under the hood, but their pricing page, usually just 3 plans. Clean, simple names, basic, Shopify, advanced. No feature overload, number 15-row comparison table, just a clear choice that feels manageable. Think about Sarah evaluating SaaSina analytics. Old pricing based on data points, users, dashboards, API calls. She'd need a calculator and a psychic to decide. New pricing, startup, growth, enterprise. Each plan lists 3 to 5 outcomes, not features. Find your most profitable channels. Optimize your funnel. Reduce churn. The decision becomes simple. Pick the plan that matches the business stage and the goal. And simplicity doesn't stop at the sales page. Onboarding matters. When a new user logs in, do they face a blank, intimidating dashboard, or do they see a short, friendly setup wizard guiding them to the first aha moment? MailChimp nails this. Small wins early on, keep people moving forward. Every step you simplify, every unnecessary word, every extra click, every wait, what does this mean? It's friction. Cut it and you grease the funnel, trim a sentence, kill a confusing tier, nuke a pointless form field. The less effort they need to keep moving, the harder it is for them to stop. And when the path feels effortless, yes, doesn't take long. But here's the thing, most SaaS buyers aren't spending their own money. It's the company's budget, and that turns every purchase into a spotlight moment. They're not just clicking buy, they're prepping for trial by committee. They'll have to defend it to their boss, to finance, maybe even a half-board panel in a conference room. That's when 2 forces collide: the logical hunt for a clear ROI and the gut-level fear of screwing up. And when those 2 go head-to-head, fear has the home field advantage. They might genuinely love the product, trust the salesperson, and feel the urgency, but if they can't build a bulletproof business case, the deal's toast. The fear of championing something that flops is huge. One wrong decision could make them look incompetent and waste company resources. And when the personal risk feels higher than the potential reward, the safest move is to do nothing. Cue the disappearing act. This is loss aversion at work. The idea that losing something hurts about twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. So it's not enough to talk about everything they'll gain. The real magic is in showing them what they'll lose by not acting. The job is to arm the internal champion with proof, not just hype, so they can walk into that meeting feeling like the hero with the smart, safe choice. That's where real numbers come in. Not company X liked our product, but company X was losing $15,000 a month to inefficient project management. After using our software, they cut delays by 40% and saved $180,000 in 1 year, a 10x return on investment. That's the kind of stat a champion can drop in front of the CFO without breaking a sweat. Even better, an ROI calculator lets them plug in their own numbers. Suddenly, the benefit isn't just marketing, it's their reality in black and white. Pricing psychology helps too. Anchoring sets the stage. List that $1,999 enterprise plan first so the $499 growth plan suddenly feels like a bargain. Or use the decoy effect. Basic at $49, Pro at $99, and Pro plus onboarding at $109. Almost no one picks the $99 option. It's just there to make $109 look irresistible. And a money-back guarantee slices right through the fear barrier. 30 days, no questions asked, full refund. Suddenly, the risky decision isn't risky at all. The champion walks into the meeting saying, "We've got the upside, we've eliminated the downside, and there's nothing to lose by trying it." And that's how hesitation turns into a yes. Pricing psychology tackles the math in our heads, but the real clincher is what happens in our gut. Logic gets you halfway, but trust and social proof shove you across the finish line. People are wired to follow the crowd. In business, that instinct can be even stronger because one wrong move can dent a reputation or even a career. Nobody wants to be the person who championed the quirky, untested software that flopped. That's why the old tech saying still hits hard. Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. That phrase is basically social proof in a nutshell, safety in numbers. Here's the thing. Humans are hardwired to look to others for cues. If everyone's running in one direction, we assume they know where they're going. In business, that shortcut becomes even more intense. Decision makers don't have time to research every possible tool from scratch, so they lean on the wisdom of the crowd. If you can show that other respected companies already trust you, you're not just selling features, you're saying, this choice has already been approved by people like you. You're in safe territory. If a brand is unknown, it's a bigger social risk. Picking that big, recognizable player means fewer questions and less potential pushback from colleagues. Even if a prospect secretly thinks the newer option is better, they might vanish in favor of the safe choice. That's where smart marketing leans on social proof. It's more than just slapping a few logos on a homepage. It's making sure those logos are grouped and framed in a way that helps a buyer see themselves in the mix. Trusted by leading e-commerce brands, powering 1,000 startups, and so on. Testimonials and case studies take it further, turning proof into stories that feel relatable, especially when they come from someone in the same role or industry. Video testimonials amplify that authenticity. User counts, like join 50,000 marketers who use this tool, tap straight into the wisdom of the crowd effect. And third-party review platforms like G2 or Capterra, they're gold because they carry an air of neutrality. Proactive companies don't just hope for good reviews, they go after them and then shout about those high ratings. But there's another layer: team pressure. Most B2B tools aren't solo experiences, they're built for collaboration. Highlighting those features as team benefits changes the game. Bring your whole marketing team together on one platform lands differently than has team commenting. It speaks to the group dynamic, not just the feature list. A good salesperson will even weave this into the conversation. Our most successful customers onboard their entire team in the first week. We actually have a dedicated session to make that seamless. Notice the little nudge there? Most successful customers is social proof disguised as friendly advice. It's not just about features, it's about aligning them with a winning tribe. In the end, social proof isn't just about showing you're good, it's about making your prospect feel like they're joining something safe, popular, and smart. You're selling inclusion. You're selling reputation insurance. You're giving them the confidence to stand in that meeting and say, "This is the tool we're going with," knowing every head in the room will nod in approval. So here's the thing: when a prospect ghosts you, it's not some random act of cruelty from the sales universe. There's a reason. A pretty specific one, actually. Somewhere along the way, a psychological need didn't get met, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It always starts with trust. If they don't feel safe with you, if they can't picture you delivering what you promised, nothing else you say matters. After that, you've got to light a real fire under them. Not the pushy, buy now or else kind, but the kind that makes them realize doing nothing is costing them more than they thought. Then comes simplicity. If they have to work to understand you, they'll work their way right out of the deal. Cut the noise, be clear, be easy. But even if you're simple and urgent, fear of loss is still a thing. So give them proof, numbers, guarantees, whatever it takes to make them feel safe. And don't forget the silent pressure, the team watching their decision. That's where social proof comes in. Show them others have made this call and live to tell the happy tale. If they ghost you, it's one of these pieces that slipped. Maybe they didn't trust you, maybe they didn't feel the clock ticking, maybe they got lost, got scared, or didn't want to be the odd one out. Your job, it's not just to sell software, it's to understand people at a level most sellers never bother with. When you shift from pitching features to connecting with feelings, ghosting stops being a problem. You go from just another vendor to the one they trust. And that's how you win. So yeah, stick around and hit that subscribe button. The next thing I've got for you might just make ghosting extinct for good.